Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. I've got a couple of cool guitars I wanted to share with you guys tonight. We'll start off with our main topic today. This is an SG I kind of regret not buying when it was available. It was listed about 2 months ago, it didn't sell none too fast, and it was listed at a staggering $6,000. This listing stood out to me because the finish is just so darn vibrant. I mean, look at that. Most SGs are not quite this bright and cherried color in this era. For example, if we go to Google, we can see most of them are like a brown color at this point in time. I mean, you can find actual cherry ones, like this guy right here, but that is nowhere near as cherry as this thing. This looks like a modern day SG. So that was really baffling to me, but we've got 2 humbucker pickups, the harmonica bridge that they used in this time period, regular stop bar tailpiece, this one had speed knobs with thumb bleeder pointers on it, and this variant had an unbound ebony fretboard. Now in the early to mid 70s, you can find 2 different kinds of SG standards. I'm not sure if they had a different name back in the day, or there was just 2 variants. You can either have ebony that's unbound or bound rosewood. Eventually the unbound ebonies get discontinued and it's all bound rosewood. In my opinion, I think the unbound ebony ones are sleeper models. I think they play even better despite not being as fancy. And this one with the really bright cherry finish pops with that dark board. And the condition of this actually seems to be really good. Most of these SG standards will have some sort of a headstock repair. It's actually starting to become quite rare to find one that doesn't have some sort of a repair. But we can see that the finish has been worn through on the edges, so somebody has played this but taken good care of it. And then when we flip over to the back, it looks like the body might be either 2 or 3 pieces on here, and we have a multi-piece neck. That also has a volute and has the very early Gibson branded tuners. You don't see this too often, it's mainly like 72, 73-ish before they phase those things out. And as far as our pickups, it's the regular tar backs that you'll see in this era. I'll be honest, they're not my favorite pickups, but they're part of the early 70s SGs. But looking into our control cavity, it looks like the pots actually date to very late 1972. So if the pots were made that date, that means this guitar could not have been made before that date. But usually it's like a 4 to 12 month variation. Now in these early 70s SGs, you can tell if it's a 1972 or before by looking at the horn carve. So right here, somebody's saying this is a 72. Yes it is. It's around 1973 when they start doing the additional carving around this area. They're very blocky before then. So that means this being dated about in 1973, probably correct. So sure, it seems to be in good condition, but $6,000? You can look at all these other ones. There's one for 26, you can see one for 33. I mean, this guy's just a little bit crazy over here, but it's a lefty. People pay crazy money for lefties. Here's a surprisingly dark cherry for $4,000. This one's kind of unique in its own right, but it's been refretted. I'm very suspicious that this has also been refinished. But anyways, you get the point. This thing is listed for double what most other ones are. So here's the part where I reveal the rest of the title. Rare Maple Body. So the reason why this finish appears so vibrant is because the light colored maple wood underneath it. It makes this finish really pop. But when this listing came about, the whole maple body really got stuck in my head. And so that's all I thought was special. But now going through this, it also has a maple neck. Which, if you don't know, the SGs are the only guitars to not have gotten swapped over to the maple necks during the maple neck era of Gibson on their Les Pauls and a few other models. The SGs, Explorers, Flying Vs, well, depends which model. We're talking the traditional ones, not the E2 V2s. We're just talking the regular Flying Vs here in the SGs. They did not get maple necks. So the fact that this thing is all maple is actually really fascinating and can help you make sense out of the double price tag. They're saying that it might be a special order because they've never seen another one of these from this era. They're not saying it's a prototype or anything like that. It does appear to have the very tiny nut width. That's the thing about these early to mid SG standards. They have tiny nuts, but they have these kind of chunky necks. Like they start off really small, but then they get really beefy up towards here. I kind of like them, but I understand why people don't like the small nut width. That starts to transition back by the late 70s, so if you prefer regular nut width, go to the later 70s or grab yourself a VSG. You can check out a review and demo of that here. I think what ultimately stopped me from wanting to buy this was the finish wear on the front right there, but now I'm kind of kicking myself. It's like, yeah, now that I know it's got the maple neck too, that is two very interesting facts. But what if I told you this is not the only all-maple SG out there? You could also look to the SG 100, 200, 250 series. I did a review and demo of one right here if you want to check them out. They also had maple bodies, and they were kind of seen as inferior guitars at that point in time. They were basically what replaced the Melody Maker in the early 70s as compared to the late 60s. The biggest thing I don't like about those is their neck construction. They pretty much have no neck pitch to them, so the fretboard is really extended off the top, kind of like the Flying V's of the era, but not in the same good way. They're interesting guitars, but there's a reason they're not ridiculously expensive. Even the headstock on those guys hardly is pitched at all. So it's kind of interesting to see an SG Standard done up in pretty much the exact same format with the whole maple body and everything. This is one I kind of wish I would have added it to my collection because I really enjoy those ebony fretboard versions, and this one's just something a little bit different, especially with that maple neck. So whoever got this, congratulations, you got a pretty cool guitar. In case you missed it, you can also see the maple wood grain on the top. Now it's not like flamed figuring or anything, but just maple wood grain. But continuing on with guitars that I really like, here's a 1982 Gibson Custom Shop Edition, the Paul, in what the seller calls Ferrari Red. Nah, it's not Ferrari Red, it's actually Candy Apple Red. Ferrari Red has a white base coat, whereas Candy Apple has either a gold or silver, depending on when it was made. This one looks like a silver to me, you can just barely see it. Candy Apple's also a lot more prone to having finish checking. It's generally a slightly metallic finish. It's kind of hard to see in this guitar if it's that. I guess it's possible it's Ferrari, but it does not look like Ferrari Red to me. A viewer of the show had sent this to me on my Facebook page. They found it at like a pawn shop or something. They offered to buy it and then send it to me. You know, they make some money, I get to document a cool guitar and then either sell it on or keep it, do whatever I want. So it'd be a win-win-win for everyone. But for whatever reason, I don't remember, that deal ended up falling through. I think I was waiting for the final information, or he ended up buying it and keeping it, something like that. But I had seen one of these before, but that was the first time I ever saw a custom shop edition, the Paul Firebrand. Now, that does not mean it was made in a separate custom shop. It's still a production level guitar, it just means it was a limited edition run. So at one point in time, there was a small run of these red the Pauls. Now it looks like somebody's swapped out the tuners on this particular one, and it's not in the best condition in the world. Super finish checked. Looks like they might have even moved the strap button to the back here. And we've got a Gibson Sonic style case. Not one of the good ones, unfortunately. But hey, kind of cool. It had Tim Shaw PAFs though. So a very cool guitar. And ooh, ABR1 style bridge? That's extra cool. Looks like nickel hardware too. That makes no sense. Is it really just worn gold because the pickups are gold? Looks like somebody's swapped out our capacitors. But a cool guitar nonetheless. That is the second one that I've seen, and this beat up one sold for $14.99. But granted, the original ones are going way up in value recently. Next up, we have another red guitar to talk about. This is a Pat Martino Custom from the early 2000s. So I've never had one of these. I don't really know what to expect. We've talked about them off and on, but this one has a really nice dark Wineburst finish. At least that's what it would have been called in the early 90s. You can check out this review and demo of a dark Wineburst Les Paul Custom. But this, it's just a really nice looking one of these. I like the fact that there's no fret markers or anything. You've got that really blinding white binding on this guitar. It pops that dark finish. And here it is in some grass to really help you see the colors as well. The gold hardware is not extra worn on it. 3-ply binding now that you take a closer look into it. But these have the very sharp Florentine style cutaways. And who can forget the strange headstock that these guys have. Used on very few models, but this is one of the signature guitars that do it, in order to have the straight string pull design. You can also check out the DC Pros. I really need to review that guitar. I think I've owned that guitar for almost a year and a half now. Or at least the P90 version. You can check out this video for the humbuckered. But where it lost me on this one is the fact that the back did not have any of the beautiful bursts. Like if this would have had a burst on the neck and the headstock, the sides and all that, I just would have bought it. I really would have. because I've been looking for a really spectacular version of one of these, just so I'm excited to review it. Reviews are always a lot more fun when I actually want to review the guitar, right? So if it's not the exact finish that I have in mind that I want for the piece, it's just not as good of a review. So that's why some of these models, I stay picky and get what I really want. But that one was close, listed at $4,000. It did not take too long to sell. And now we'll wrap out today's episode with an obscure one, a 2020 Mule Resophonic Guitars Mulecaster. So it's in a weathered green finish, they call. It is a steel body electric guitar, and it's supposed to be tuned like a wait, what? Why is it supposed to be tuned like a baritone if it doesn't have a baritone scale length? I guess it's because it's got super heavy gauge strings. That's just how they set it up. I don't know if I want to talk about this guitar anymore. Baritone, awkward feel? Get out of town. Bucketheads eat other Les Pauls alive. But I guess guys that are really, really good at guitar and have their fingers trained to those specific scale lengths, I'm sure switching to a baritone will really throw them off. But someone like me who isn't as diligent in his practice routine, we can switch back and forth between whatever we want. It doesn't mess with us too much. So maybe it has something to do with that. But okay, so this is actually a metal guitar. I thought this was a wooden piece that was all distressed to look metal, because I really like the way that they stylized this F-hole, because it made it look like they did that. But no, that they really did that. And it looks like mini humbuckers? Wow. Mini humbucker with like a gold foil type pickup. The pickguard seems semi-what out of place, but in place at the same time. I like the use of these old style knobs. You got a kind of a strange toggle switch. You know, maybe that's actually just a weathered mini humbucker after all. I thought I saw like gold foil vibes right there, but I don't see that in this angle. But it is a bolt-on neck, and they've done the channel-bound fretboard. Now I can't say I'm a fan of the headstock. I mean, if you're trying to build a T-style instrument, there's only so much you can do without getting the copyright lawyers after you, because that's the only thing Fender can protect. But I saved this one probably a year or so ago in my watch list just because I thought it was kind of cool. Alright, troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed checking out these guitars with me today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will catch you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.